Hi, my name's Dave Moore, D-A-V-E-M-O-O-R-E. I'm a volunteer with Pike Off OTA. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority is not to be trusted. Over the past 4.5 years since the announcement of Access Oklahoma, the toll road project, we have witnessed multiple instances of the OTA telling the people of Oklahoma things that are simply not true. The OTA's willingness to break the law is also extremely disturbing. Tonight we're going to show you some of the latest examples of how the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority cannot be trusted. Number one, OTA's main spokesperson, Terry Angier, is married to Keith Angier, managing partner of MacArthur Associated Consultants. Angier's son also worked for MacArthur. MacArthur is a major contractor building parts of the new turnpikes in Norman. The Angier family stands to make millions of dollars off of the turnpike projects, while at the same time Mrs. Angier lobbies local governments and citizens to pressure them to not oppose the turnpikes. This is a serious conflict of interest and a serious violation of Oklahoma ethics laws. Number two, on July 30th, 2026, the OTA colluded with the Council of Bond Oversight and violated state law by COBO approving bond sales by the OTA. Dr. Amy Serrato is here and she's going to speak about that here in a few minutes. Number three, in numerous instances, the OTA, using its relationship with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, broke state law by using state troopers to exercise police power in the city of Norman over Norman landowners to force them to allow surveyors onto their property even after access to the property had been denied by the landowners. The law broken was 2005 Oklahoma Statutes Title 21, Section 1835, which says that surveyors may enter somebody's property unless forbidden to do so, either orally or in writing. That's the law that the OTA and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol broke. Number three, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has violated the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, NAGPRA, by allowing their surveyors to know the location of and to desecrate ancient, prehistoric, sacred American Indian burial grave sites and to plan their destruction by building the South Extension Turnpike. There is land in East Norman that contains prehistoric American Indian burial grave sites, and OTA has allowed its surveyors to defile those grave sites in violation of federal law. Number four, the OTA, in collusion with the city of Moore and OG&E, has polluted ranch land in West Norman and contaminated it in order to build their turnpike bridge over the Canadian River. We have serious concerns about whether the OTA has followed proper permitting and environmental laws. The city of Moore, with the help of OTA, is dumping raw sewage on the Straker Ranch in West Norman. They are also spraying contaminated effluent on the dirt roads and soil in the same area where they're building the bridge across the Canadian River. Number five, then there is the issue of OU President Joe Harraz claiming that the university loves the idea of turtle roads and that they are desperately needed. To speak to that issue is local Norman educator Rick Sondag, that's spelled S-O-N-D-A-G, pronounced Sunday. Rick.
Oh, I'm not.
Well, my name is Rick Sunday. I'm not a native Oklahoman, but I've lived and taught here for over 30 years. And I had attended OU for some postgraduate classes. My wife, Julie, received 2 degrees there, and we are both educators here in Norman. To address President Harris' his comments about Oklahoma, these interchanges being essential for economic growth, it just sounds like he's just kind of regurgitating the OTA playbook, because that's the things that they would say. Oh, it's good for economic growth. It's essential to have access to all these OU events that happen. And I can't understand if anybody's been here on an OU football day on a Saturday. If you're a local business person and you're not making money on that day, I guarantee it's not because people can't get there fast enough. And I'm a little taken back because Norman has really treated OU with respect and honor and love for over 100 years, and we've welcomed students and faculty from all over the world to live here, to love here, to learn here, and I just really wish in return they could become good stewards of our land too. For the people, they're temporary residents, they'll be here for a few years and then they'll move on to better lives or other lives. But for the people who are permanent residents here, I wish they would look out for, well, what do they need to live? How can we help prevent their environment, their homes, their livelihood? Instead of just thinking, oh, just someone here is going to turn a profit and we're going to watch that happen. President Harris, for being a leader of an institution of higher learning, I don't understand why he hasn't demanded studies for environmental reasons, environmental studies, traffic studies, safety studies. He's just repeating their playbook. And the OTA they'll say they have studied, well, there's studies for every place else in the state, but not specifically for where we're living right now. And I would really like for President Harris to go out and speak to the people who are going to be affected by this. And I can't speak for 100% of the people in Norman. I can't. I have no idea what they think about the Turnpike or what they even know about the Turnpike. But I'm in its path, and I can tell you 100% of the people in its path will tell you we don't want it, we don't need it. So Harris can go knock on their doors and tell them, sorry this is going to happen, but guess what? Everybody, for those 5 Saturdays this fall, all our fans are going to get to the game on time. So thank you for listening to me.
Somebody just made a good point to me. The Oklahoma Supreme Court has already ruled that you cannot use eminent domain to take people's property for economic development purposes. That's the law in the state of Oklahoma. So, I'm sorry, Joe, your plan isn't going to work out. So now, let's hear from Dr. Amy Serrato.
Hi, my name is Amy Serrato. I am the president of Pike Off OTA and the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, and I'm also a practicing civil engineer. So I would like to start by talking about those interchanges just briefly. We've already established that the southern extension would be completely devastating to East Norman. And when you start to add interchanges, you start to take up more right-of-way, so you eminent domain, more people. You allow the developers to come in and put service roads, which then creates more light pollution and more vibrations and more wildlife disruption and quite frankly, citizen disruption. And as they always say, don't Edmond my Norman, I would say that Norman will become even worse than Edmond should we allow the service roads and the interchanges to go through. So the city of Norman can absolutely stop them from the interchanges on Alameda and any of those crossroads. And we are still hopeful that we can stop that southern extension through more litigation, because the state Supreme Court got that absolutely wrong when they allowed the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to use a bogus statutory location authorization to justify their southern extension. So I could talk to you a lot more about why interchanges in a rural area are not a good idea, specifically light, and all the maintenance, and they're bootstrapping the citizens of Norman for decades with all the maintenance costs on the increased width that Alameda would have to be, all the additional traffic lights, and all the things that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority doesn't really care about, because they come in and destroy a community and then leave, and then 10 years later do it to another community when everybody has forgotten what they've done. And it's Pike Off OTA's mission that we not forget, and then we write down everything that they're doing to the citizens so that our children will never have to deal with that type of bully agency again. And so to end, I'll talk about the Council for Bond Oversight, which was another egregious law-breaking exercise that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority bought and paid for that happened on Thursday, July 30th. So the Council Bond Oversight is in statute to be the oversight. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has to go to the Council for Bond Oversight to get permission to sell bonds. And they can opt to go to the state Supreme Court, and they opt sometimes to go to the state Supreme Court for validation, but they have to go to the Council for Bond Oversight. The Council for Bond Oversight is made up of people appointed by the governor and the legislature. And they're members of the Chamber of Commerce and other entities that I feel have conflicts of interest when it comes to adjudicating the validity of a bond sale. And so one of the statutory requirements to be able to sell a bond is that you not have any threatened or pending litigation. Well, Pike Off OTA launched a lawsuit on the South Canadian River alleging that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority does not have the required permits, the environmental permits, nor have they done the studies, and they're using segmentation to bypass the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers regulations on those permits. And the Council for Bond Oversight literally ignored that statutory requirement. In addition to breaking the law in that regard, the Council for Bond Oversight also ignored the 3 additional statutory violations that Pike Off OTA submitted, as well as 9 trust agreement violations. And in addition, to make matters worse, when we asked for all of the packet information to be able to review it before the meeting, the Council for Bond Oversight told us, no, we are not entitled to that information, but the press was given a packet while the people were held out. So there could be a potential Open Meetings Act violation in the works, to be honest. I wanted to talk to you about what the Council for Bond Oversight tried to do to cover their tracks. They gave the OTA a list of 12 conditions that it had to follow in order to get final bond sale approval, and they were largely bogus. So the 12 conditions said they couldn't raise more than $1.5 billion for access. They didn't do anything with talking about what actually went wrong. They said, in the future, you can't do these things. So the translation is Kobo is putting a ceiling on how much the new construction money the OTA can generate from this particular bond sale. Well, remember, they have an unlimited golden spigot that can go on forever. While we have credit card limits, they have none. Their refinancing has to save money. So they can't just refinance their old bonds for the sake of refinancing them. It has to be a savings. They have to provide a preliminary official statement before the bonds are priced. Big deal. And that's just the standard fare. They have to provide the final official statement. The 5th one was they have to tell the investors about our lawsuit. Fantastic. We're being sued. Turn the other way and buy our bonds. That was, that's not a real condition in my opinion. And then it says let the deputy treasurer sit in on the rating agency meetings. Again, big deal. So you're getting $2.9 billion and you have to let someone sit in on the rating agency meetings. Remember that that's observing what the OTA tells the rating agencies isn't necessarily implementing and determining whether the OTA is legally compliant. And so then the 7th condition was to get an opinion from the bond counsel. The bond counsel is paid by the OTA. It's not an independent certification. Who's checking the checkers? And I think the state of Oklahoma really needs to understand how these oversight boards really work. It's not oversight. Then it says get another opinion from the underwriter's lawyer. Get another lawyer's letter. Big deal. Again, they're paid by the OTA. Give Kobo the bond purchase agreement and make sure Jeffries accepts it. Jeffries is the underwriter. That's the company underwriting the bonds has to agree to the contract governing its purchase. It's not an oversight condition, it's just standard financial words. Then the OTA must promise to obey the federal judge in our lawsuit. Wow. The Council for Bond Oversight has absolutely no oversight onto what you do when a federal judge tells you what you need to do. So that is a completely bogus condition, and it's just posturing that makes them look like they're doing something. And then for the last 2, they said if the court stops the east-west connector, and people should be interested in this, the OTA promises that it can spend the money somewhere else. That is also not statutorily allowed. So you have to make sure that the OTA is supposed to statutorily required, and we can check with Cheryl on this, that when you want to build a new road, it has to become financially feasible after 5 years. So you have to prove that for 5 years it can stand on its own with operating and maintenance and the reserve maintenance fund. Okay? The OTA hasn't done that since the 90s. Yet they're given all these bonds and allowed to do these things, and the Council for Bond Oversight is supposed to make sure that their bond application follows all the laws, and they did not. Though this is potentially one of the most consequential conditions because it embodies the state bond advisor's modularity argument that she talked about during the meeting. And are those other projects independently eligible to receive these second senior bond proceeds? And we say no, they're not. So that condition already is against the law. And then this 12th one was nothing. Submit the fee approval form before closing. So that's just to show them who's getting paid and how much. So the bigger problem with what happened in Kobo is that they didn't resolve the objections we raised about whether OTA was already complying with Oklahoma law. They gave them some fluff, some snowball, easy conditions that mean nothing. And yet here we are again with another watchdog agency turning their backs on the citizens and allowing the biggest bully on the block, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, to run over the citizens of Norman with a $2.9 billion bond sale. And so we feel that the Attorney General's office should have been the one watchdogging. And in fact, the Attorney General was at the table. The Assistant Attorney General, Ron Dutton, was sitting at the table and said nothing as the Council for Bond Oversight made their conditions known. So Pike Off OTA and the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, along with all the citizens who are fighting these, would like someone in the state of Oklahoma to stand up and do the right thing, whether that be an elected official or our judiciary system. We have some problems to fix in our state, and the Council for Bond Oversight breaking the law maybe 3 times last week was just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you.
Wow. If you have any questions, you can ask anyone here practically. You can ask me, you can ask Amy. If you'd like to ask a question right now, we can answer it while we're on camera, just whatever you think. But that's the end of our presentation, and the City Council meeting begins probably in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you for coming out.